The Bill Jackson Documents Investigation, not coming soon. In Season 4, Episode 1, Going for Broke, on the Curse of Oak Island, 3 documents were introduced by researcher Zena that would change the landscape of the Oak Island mystery. These documents were part of a collection belonging to Bill Jackson. Compendium Investigations will begin a new series called The Bill Jackson Documents Investigation. We will look into Jackson's docs with a comprehensive analysis and detailed research into the players involved. Our multi-part series starts next Tuesday, December 12th, 2023. We hope you enjoy it. In Season 4, Episode 1 of The Curse of Oak Island, Zena presented 3 pieces of evidence to the Fellowship. Zena's third document, a French map of Oak Island which was dated 1347, created the largest impact. The map depicts Oak Island and is labeled with various French words describing areas of the island. The name, François Rochefoucauld, and other references are listed. Although many of the areas clearly refer to well-known features of Oak Island, including the swamp, the money pit, and the stone triangle, others are quite unique. Specifically, 3 areas, when translated into English, are the anchors, the valve, and the hatch, or the hole under the hatch, that has been recently suggested. This map has led to a controversy over its authenticity. Before appearing on the show, Zena had been working with Don Roux on a project. During this time, the map was found folded up in a book that was in Mr. Roux's possession. Apparently, Mr. Roux inherited this material from his deceased friend, Dr. William Jackson. Eventually, Zena and Mr. Roux had a falling out, and they went their separate ways. Zena had a copy of the map that she presented to the Curse of Oak Island crew. Zena was a very well-respected expert on ancient Hebrew language studies. She was consulted for many projects regarding artifacts that had suspected Hebrew writing on them. According to Mr. Roux, the Oak Island map is a fabrication, most likely created by Bill Jackson, as part of an assignment by the agency Dr. Jackson worked for to intentionally set up a bad guy associated with the P2 scandal in the late 1970s. Shortly after I discovered the Oak Island map hidden within the pages of a book by Bill in 2015, I showed the map to Miss Halpin, who immediately assumed it was connected to the Cremona document story. At the time, even I was unclear of the map's association to anything, until I recently found the letter below in my voluminous records that put the Oak Island map into proper context. My only involvement in the operation was to carve the symbols on a swagger stick, as directed by Bill Jackson. The redacted portions in the letter are to protect persons involved in the P2 matter that are still living. In Zena's book, The Templar Mission to Oak Island and Beyond, she elaborates on the history of the map. It's believed to be a 14th century version of a map that depicts Oak Island. Dr. Jackson worked for the Spartan Agency, which was associated with the CIA, who some believe was hired to do the work the CIA could not officially be engaged in doing. The Spartan Agency reportedly was involved in manipulations against the Vatican, who bought all of Jackson's original documents, which is why Zena had only transcripts. It is speculated that this map was produced to aid in spying on the P2/Vatican associations. Dr. Jackson hired Mr. Roux to falsify historical pieces as part of his work. How is all of this connected? The powerful banking families in Italy were known as the Black Nobility. The Black Nobility benefited from family connections to the Vatican. The Black Nobility is closely associated with the Knights of Malta, once known as the Knights Hospitaller. The Black Nobility became very powerful and had houses in Italy, France, Portugal, and England. Milan was established as the international banking headquarters for the Black Nobility. This included the Banco Ambrosiano, which was the main shareholder of the Vatican Bank before they collapsed in 1982 as the biggest banking scandal in Italian history. The last chairman of Banco Ambrosiano was Roberto Calvi, also known as God's Banker. Calvi was found hanging under the Blackfriars Bridge in London in 1982 after having fled Italy. Calvi was a member of Lizio Gelli's Masonic Lodge, Propaganda Dieu, P2, who referred to themselves as Frati Neri, or Black Friars. The Black Friars were known within intel circles for working directly with the Black nobility families. Many believe that Calvi had agreed to cooperate with authorities. His death was ruled a homicide. Dr. Jackson's sting operation is believed to have been related to this intrigue. In analyzing the map, there are several errors associated with it that are considered red flags. My colleague and fellow Oak Island researcher Charlotte Yeltao has studied the map, and I want to share some of her findings. Charlotte also works as an English lead French teacher in France. She states that she knows that language can change over a short period, but the French used on the map is not correct. The masculine and feminine are wrong, for example. It's not elle est trop, le barque, cet dessin. The grammar is also wrong. There are errors with prepositions and verbs. For example, les Sud-Indiens travaillent très bon has errors all through the sentence. No plurals, bad verb ending, and bad choice of adjective. Are there times when you read something, and you know it was not written by a native speaker? There are clues here that are obvious that fall into this category. Charlotte has considered the possibility of words changing gender, usage of medieval French that could be written like it was spoken, but nothing can explain all the mistakes. She believes that the document was written by someone who was not fluent in French. In Charlotte's opinion, she sees mistakes that an English speaker would make, but not a French speaker, as she recognizes these mistakes with her students. She says it can't be Old French because of the word atterrissage. Atterrissage does not come into French until the 19th century. Also, the word dessin comes from Middle French, roughly in the 16th century. Another example is the word chêne, oak, which wasn't used until the 16th century at the earliest. In 1694, they were still using the old word chesnay from Middle French, and in 1160 it was spelled chêne from Old French. Could this just be bad grammar by the drawer? She agrees that people did not have the same concept of spelling and writing during the reported time of the map. But in Charlotte's opinion, it's not written by a French hand. Knowing masculine from feminine is not about literacy. As a French person, you would be used to a certain word being that gender. The biggest red flag is one word, atterrissage, which was first attested in use from 1835. Charlotte agrees that the person who made the map knew details about the island and had a reason to make a map with correct locations, keeping in mind that they were trying to make it look French and look older than it actually is. She has consulted with other experts and that concur with her findings. I've also found some concerns. The first is the word Indian that was used on the map. This word was not used until the 16th century at the earliest, after Columbus explored the West Indies. Some suggest that maybe the drawer copied it and made some mistakes. Looking at the map closely, you'll notice that the shape of the island hasn't changed much since 1347. After 700 years, the shape of Oak Island would have changed significantly due to tides, erosion, and rising water levels. If the map was copied, it would show a different shape and look more like it did in 1347. In my opinion, the map was made in the 1940s or later. The 1939 Popular Science article that showed detailed information of Oak Island could have been copied to produce the map. Other maps and information on the island could have been used as well. I've mentioned the McGuinness family legend that there's a hatch that leads to an underground labyrinth on the island. This could have been known by the drawer. Zena was a highly respected researcher. It's unfortunate that her name has been attached to this map. I don't believe she knew the map was fraudulent. I'm a big fan of Zena's work, and I respect her legacy. I know that Charlotte feels the same way. This conclusion doesn't mean that the locations of the map shouldn't be fully explored. There's evidence to suggest that areas shown on the map could have significance because they probably came from other source material. Daniel Spino and Charlotte Wheatley.